Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Biology with Florence. Today in this video we are going to discuss 8th class biology. 8th class biology we are going to deal with the 8th lesson. The name of the lesson is Production and Management of Food from Plants. So if we see the production and management, first we have to discuss about India. So if we see India, it is a country, basically more number of farmers are there, and if you see the occupation of different people also, they base on agriculture. So what type of plants that are grown in India, if we have a look on that, we can say that mostly majority of the people here they cultivate paddy, and some parts of the India north side they cultivate wheat, jowar, bajra, all these are the different types of plants they cultivate, even groundnut. And see, India is not totally composed of same type of soil. Different types of soils are also there in India. So basing on the soil, the farmers adopt different types of agricultural food materials. Okay, so coming to this lesson here, many of the important points we can read. Coming to this lesson, we will see first what are crops and what is agriculture. So if we see what are crops, crops are nothing but the plants which are grown in large amounts of number in large amount of area. Crops, these are the plants which are produced in large scales. In large scale, or which are cultivated in large scale to get more product, So such type of plants are called crops. So what is agriculture? So if we see the definition of agriculture, agriculture is nothing but the process of growing these crops in large scale. So the process of growing crops in large scale, or the process of growing crops, is called agriculture. So in that large scale crops means in that the crops may be paddy or wheat, or different types of crops are grown in agriculture. So if we see agriculture, basically it depends upon the duration of the time. So some crops are grown in less number of days or few months it takes, and some crops are grown in more number of days, means it takes more months. So for example, we can term it as long term crops, basing on the duration of time period, long term crops. So what are called long term crops? The crops that are grown for long period of time, means minimum to 180 days, such type of crops are called long term crops. So we can say what are long term crops means, the crops which are grown at least for 180 days, such type of crops are called long term crops. 180 days means nearly it takes 6 months. The time duration here is 6 months. And if you see the examples of crops grown, majorly it comes here jowar and red gram. Many of the examples are there, but here we will see jowar and red gram. It is also a long term crop. And coming to the next, short term crops. So here the time duration taken is less when compared to the long term crops. So here it takes 180 days, 6 months. So here the crops are grown for 100 days. 100 days means it is nearly 3 months. It is 3 months crop. So the examples if we see here, those are black gram and green gram. So these are the examples of crops that are grown. So basing on the time duration, we can divide the crops into two types: long term crops, short term crops. Long term crops, it takes 180 days, means nearly 6 months. The examples are zower, red gram. And short term crops, it takes 100 days, means nearly 3 months. Examples are black gram and green gram. So the time period taken is divided like this. So next topic if we see, we are going to see Kharif crops and Rabi crops. It is based on the seasons. Basing on the season, so which season which type of crops are grown, we can divide the crops into two main types: Kharif season crops and Rabi season crops. So Kharif crops, if we see Kharif crops, mostly this word Kharif, it is derived from the language Arabic. So we get this from Arabic language, and the meaning of in Arabic, the meaning of Kharif is rain. So Kharif crops means rainy season crops, we can say. So it is derived from Arabic language. So if we see rainy season means, from in India we can see rainy season from June to October. So in this months the crops are grown. So if we see the example from June to October, which plants or which crops are grown here, we can see paddy. So examples: paddy is grown, zower and chili, sugarcane, turmeric. So these are the basic example we can see which are grown in Kharif crops. So the other one is Rabi crop. So this is also derived from the Arabic language. So in Arab, Rabi means winter. So here the crops are winter season crops, we can say. So winter season, the months if we see, it starts from October to the month of March or April. It ends by April. So such type of crops are called Rabi crops. And if we see the examples here, wheat. So wheat is one example, maize. So these two we can see here. Barley also. So wheat, maize, barley. So these are the basic main crops which are grown in winter season. So basing on seasons, we divided crops into Kharif crop and Rabi crops. Kharif crops means rainy season crop, and Rabi crops means winter season crops. So not only this, even the crops depend upon the duration of flowering, the time taken for a plant to give flowers. So suppose if we see in winter, what happens, the duration of light is longer. So winter seasons, mostly the nights if you see, the duration is longer. So what happens in winter, more flowers we can see. So some plants or some flowering plants, they are easily capable of giving more flowers during the time where the night is longer, or the season where the night is longer. So we see mostly in winter season. So all the flowering plants, chrysanthemum, roses, all these, or not only these, many of the dahlia flowers, all that, they come during the seasons of winter. So even night duration also we have to consider during the time of flowering. So night is longer, then there is a chance for more occurrence of flowers. So more flowers are there, what happens, automatically more fruits will be there, and finally the product will be more. So the farmer sees, or he keeps in mind the time period where the flowers occurs also. So mostly he will see the all the months which is suitable for the crop to give more number of flowers, and at that month he sows the plant. Suppose if you see for wheat we said, no. So wheat it is a rabi crop. So which month is very good for sowing wheat? If we see, suppose if he starts the sowing of seeds of wheat in the month of June, you think. Suppose he started sowing the seeds of wheat in June. So it may take the time of October like that to give yielding or to give flowers for the wheat. But if we see wheat, they need less night duration. They need less night duration for flowering of wheat. So suppose you think a farmer sowed seeds of wheat in the month of June. So by the time of October, it will be starting giving flowers. But October, it is a month of winter. So winter, what is the duration of night? It is longer. So it is not suitable for wheat. So wheat, it is suggestible to sow the seeds during the month of October, so that when he sows the seeds of wheat in the month of October, it takes time for him, means nearly it goes at the time of 3 months, no? October, November, December, January. At the month of Jan or Feb, the wheat plant starts flowering. So the night duration goes on decreasing, and it is suitable for wheat for giving of more number of flowers. So that also we have to keep in mind, not we, the farmers have to keep in mind while sowing the seeds. So basically we see that rabi crops are grown in winter season, and some crops they depend upon the duration of night. So some crops need more long durations of night, such as flowering plants, but some like wheat, they need less time or less night duration. So we have to see. So here we observed one thing, that so the seasons matters here, even night duration also matters. So night duration, night longer, that duration helps the flowering plants, because at night duration is longer, some flowering plants will give more amount of flowers. So that is useful for flowering plants. But if a night duration is very less, it is useful for some type of crops like wheat. So wheat, it requires less night duration. So when it is sown in the month of October, it will be useful for the farmer. But if it is sown in the month of June, the farmer will not get more yield, because it takes October for flowering. So it is not at all suitable for wheat plant for flowering in October, but sowing in October is advisable. So that is the point we learned now. So in the same way, basing on the night duration, some plants are there or some crops are there where duration of night doesn't matter at all. If the duration of night is short or if the duration of night is longer, even though they give more yield, short or long, and they give more production also. Such type, for that example is soya beans. So these type of soya bean is called as neutral plant. Neutral crops. Neutral in the sense that doesn't matter in night duration. Either it is long, the night duration is long, it doesn't matter. If it is short also, it doesn't matter. It will give its as usual production. So this is the point we can add here in this chapter. So coming to the next topic, we will see growing of paddy, and if we see from which time it is grown, it is an ancient crop. It is grown from Mesolithic period, means around 900 to 800 BC, and it is also from the old Harappan civilization it started growing, means it starts from 2300 BC. So it is an old crop which is grown all over the world, and most of the people, if we see around the world, majority they consume rice. So it is also called as the global grain, and it is a staple food for many of the people. And if we see paddy, not only to the temperate zones, it is also grown in the cooler climate areas, means America, Australia. So it is grown in that areas also, and mostly it is also grown in China and Japan. If we see some examples, first India it is grown. So we all know that in India, and if we see China, and if we see Japan, some difference is there in growing the way or the method of growing paddy. So India, if you see, the amount of land cultivated is mostly it is 40 acres. So net percentage, if we see, 40 hectares we can see, or acres. And in China, if we see, it is 36 or 37 like that. So 36 to 37 hectares it is grown. And Japan, if we see, 2.3 hectares. Okay, the 2.5 hectares it is grown. Okay, so if we see the amount or the number of hectares is more in India, and number of hectares grown in Japan is less. But for our surprise, if we see the production, India is getting less production even though the area cultivated or the land cultivated is more. So production is automatically, if we compare, we will be surprised, as I said earlier. So if we see 40 million hectares of land is cultivated in India, if you see the production per hectare kg, it is 1975 kgs per hectare is we are getting for the production. And if in China, if we see 36 million hectares are cultivated, and the production we are getting per hectare is how many kgs? If we see, it is 3534 kgs. And Japan, if we see, 2.5 million hectares are cultivated for paddy, and if we see the amount of production per hectare in how many kgs, if we see, it is 6250. So overall, if we analyze this, India, even though it is cultivating more amounts of hectares, more land is cultivated for paddy, it is getting less amount of production. And if we see Japan, even though it is cultivating less amount of land for the paddy, it is giving more amount of production. So what is the difference here? Why the difference came in production? So it depends upon the methods of cultivation and the usage of scientific methods. So both include or both helped Japan for increasing more amount of production of paddy, even even though the land cultivated is less. Here we'll summarize what we have learned. So we have discussed what are crops, what is agriculture. Agriculture is nothing but the process of growing crops in large amount or large scale. And we have seen Kharif crops, we have seen Rabi crops. Kharif crops are nothing but rainy season crops, Rabi crops are winter season crops. And we have seen long term crops, the crops that are grown for 180 days are called long term, and short term crops, we have seen even examples also. Short term crops are the crops that are grown less number of months, it takes less number of days, mostly 100 days, means 3 months. We have seen the examples, and we have discussed that even night duration also matters in the production of the and we have seen growing of paddy also. Paddy, even though it is an ancient crop, most of the ancient period it was grown, it is called or consumed by majority of the people in India and all over the world. So it is called as and consumed by majority of people in the world, so it is called global grain. And if you see the production, India, even though it is producing or it is using more amount of hectares or fields for the production of paddy, in production if we see, it is giving less yield. But Japan, using the modern techniques and the way methods of cultivation, it is getting more amount of production, even the land is less. So that we have discussed in this video. In the next video, we will see further information about the lesson. Thank you.